Meyer, the frog with the weathered red cape, stands at the edge of the jungle as dawn stretches pale light through layers of leaves, and the world feels heavier than it did yesterday, as if the jungle itself remembers everything it has taken from him and is asking whether he still intends to stay. The jungle is not evil, nor is it kind. It is ancient, patient, and brutally honest, a place where survival is not granted by hope but earned through endurance, and Meyer has learned this lesson more times than he can count. He was not born a hero, and he never chased the title. He became one because when the fires came, when the hunters crept in with their blades and laughter, when the weaker voices fell silent one by one, he stayed behind, even when fear told him to disappear into the reeds and let the world solve itself. His cape, faded and patched, once belonged to Elder Bramble, an old toad whose presence alone could steady a room, whose belief was simple and devastatingly true: someone always pays the cost of peace, and pretending otherwise only makes the payment bloodier. Meyer remembers being younger, lighter, believing that the jungle was dangerous but fair, believing that if you were careful and kind, you would be spared, but that illusion cracked slowly over years of loss, over nests burned for sport, over rivers that rose without warning and carried away lives that had not yet learned how to scream. The jungle tests him daily, not with grand battles but with quiet cruelty, hunger that sets in during long patrols, exhaustion that makes shadows look like threats, doubt that whispers that one frog cannot protect a world that refuses to stop destroying itself. Each step through the undergrowth is a negotiation with roots and mud, each breath thick with moss and memory, and yet he keeps moving because stopping would mean letting chance decide who survives next. On the day everything changes, the air feels wrong, too still, cicadas pausing as if listening for something worse than silence, and Meyer senses fire before he sees it, thin fingers of smoke curling upward like accusations. He moves fast, guiding the young away from the danger, sending messengers into hiding, choosing to be seen so others don't have to be, knowing that being a hero often means becoming a target. When the hunters arrive, masked and confident, their blades humming softly with practiced cruelty, Meyer stands between them and the nurseries, speaking once, calmly, offering them a way out that preserves lives on both sides, but laughter answers him, the sound of creatures who have never had to clean up the aftermath of their own violence. The fight that follows is messy and unglamorous, filled with slips in wet soil, hurried retreats, and desperate maneuvers that rely more on the jungle's cooperation than on strength, and through it all Meyer feels time pressing against him, reminding him that even heroes get tired. It is then that Elder Bramble appears, older and slower than before, staff in hand, eyes steady despite the danger, and Meyer feels both relief and fear because heroes never want witnesses when the cost comes due. The river roars nearby, swollen and impatient, and as the hunters press harder, one blade finds its mark, not on Meyer, but on Bramble, whose reflexes are no longer fast enough to keep pace with the world he protected for so long. The moment stretches painfully as Bramble stumbles and falls into the river, water closing over him with indifference, and Meyer lunges forward, fingers brushing fabric. But heroism does not rewrite physics, and the current does not honor sacrifice. When the hunters finally retreat, shaken by resistance they did not expect, Meyer is left kneeling in the shallows, cape soaked, hands empty, understanding in the deepest part of himself that saving others does not grant immunity from loss. The jungle mourns quietly, insects falling silent, leaves trembling as if remembering their own dead, and later Bramble's body is found downstream, caught gently among reeds, as though the river itself feels regret. There is no grand funeral, no speeches about destiny, because adult grief does not perform. It settles, heavy and suffocating, demanding to be carried forward rather than resolved. In the days that follow, Meyer moves through the jungle like a shadow, organizing defenses, teaching the young how to read smoke and wind, negotiating fragile truces with creatures who no longer trust heroes, all while carrying Bramble's final lesson like a wound that will never fully close. At night, alone beneath the canopy, he speaks to the dead not because he expects answers but because silence feels heavier than words, admitting fear, admitting exhaustion, admitting that some days he wants to lay the cape down and vanish into anonymity. But dawn always comes, and with it responsibility, and Meyer learns that adulthood in a broken world means accepting that meaning is built through repetition, not triumph, that heroism is maintenance rather than glory, and that continuing to stand is sometimes the bravest act left. The jungle never becomes safe, but it becomes defended. Loss never fades, but it becomes carried, and Meyer, the frog hero with the weathered cape, keeps walking into danger not because he believes he will win, but because he knows exactly what happens if he doesn't.